Hey, friends. Welcome to the Makings of Her, where we sit down with women and talk about their views on money, relationships, and self discovery. I am your host, Selma, also known as Bitch I'm Budgeting. Here, we make the uncomfortable conversations a little more comfortable. I want to introduce my first guest, Dyana, who we also know on Instagram as Money Boss Mama. She is a beautiful mother of two who was able to pay off $35,000 worth of debt without making six figures. She knows the importance of making sure your mindset is in the right place before you tackle debt. Hey, girl.
Thank you for having me. You made me sound important.
Girl, you are important. I don't think you know like what you do for the community, especially I feel like people toss out kind of like single motherhood as it's like some kind of financial like where they just don't make enough money or can't do the things that they want to do, but you have proven to us like I can do the things. Like you are a badass mom. And I'm just like, well, first of all, you're a woman first, but I'm just like, you're a badass mom. So like, what is one of the one things that you accomplished this year that you are completely proud about?
Girl, me going into this crazy housing market and being able to put in offers on $200,000 to $400,000 properties. That to me is mind blowing because when I first initially decided that I was going to start this new real estate journey, I was like, "Oh, I don't want to come to close to 200,000." And here I am. It's like God said, "No, ma'am, go higher." And here I am looking at $400,000 properties. So to me, that is it's insane.
I'm sure it's scary, but I watch you on Instagram all the time. I'm like, nah, she got this. Like we see the scare, but I made a post the other day where I said sometimes you just have to do things scared. Like
Oh,
it is
absolutely.
okay. You still have to do it. So what was your first experience with money and how did that shape your continuous relationship with money?
Oh, okay. So first experience that I can remember, I always go back to the story of like when my mom left my dad. She's a new single mother of three, and we're in the grocery store. And the grocery store, I dreaded the experience because it got into this routine where we didn't know if the check was going to bounce or not. We didn't know if we had to deal with the sting of embarrassment of leaving, the grocery cart full of groceries at the front of the store. Sometimes, nice people would help us pay for it, and sometimes we would just have to walk away. So I didn't quite understand what was going on since I was so young, but I still knew like this is embarrassing. Something's not right, and I
Yeah.
don't that I want to go through this when I'm her age.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, and especially experiencing that at such a young age, I'm sure that's something that has stuck with you throughout your years. Like, I don't want my children to experience that.
It definitely started a toxic cycle of hustle, hustle. I got to work, 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 work. I need all the money that I can because I felt so out of control. I felt
Yeah.
like, I didn't have any control over money and my experiences. And so when I started working at 16, I'm like, this is my money. I
Yeah.
get to control this and I need more to feel secure.
Yeah. I love it. I know, like I said, that's just not easy, but it does breed that like hustle, hustle, hustle. And sometimes that's good. And sometimes we're just like, when does it
You're
stop?
like, what's the end goal? What is enough?
Yeah, yeah. What was a turning point for you to say, like, I want to get out of debt? Like, when did that happen for you? Because the conversation is different for everyone. And I feel like people think like it's like a magical thing of someone motivating you. But I'm like, you have to
Yeah.
want to get out of it yourself. So when was that turning point for you to say, like, okay, I need to start my debt-free journey?
It really started with my auto loan. That was my
Mhm.
first debt. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I had a little raggedy beat up car. All of my classmates had nice cars. So when I turned 18, I'm like, I deserve it. I'm working as
Yeah.
a Sonic car op. But I'm like, I deserve it. So I'm gonna go out and I want a new car. I'm tired of being embarrassed at the red light, thinking people are looking at me and like, dang, she looks all right, but the car is beat up. And
Yeah.
so so I got my first debt, which was the auto loan. Didn't know about interest rates, the principal balance. I didn't know how any of that worked, but all I knew is that it took one of my paychecks. It was super expensive for me. And so when I had my daughter, obviously things had to change. And it was the process of learning things. I'm like, interest rate, what's an interest rate? Okay, so what is a principal balance? And as I'm learning, like half of my payment isn't even like only half is going to the principal balance.
Yeah.
It disgusted me. And so I started to go to good old Google and start learning about the process of things. And then I'm realizing like I'm working my butt off. None of it's
Mhm.
going to me, it's going to other people because of my decisions. And really that is what started my interest in the debt-free journey. I was just basically sick of it. Something had to change.
And was it $35,000 that you started off with? Like that was just the car, or was it like other things also in there?
No, so that 35,000, it didn't include because I did put a lot of my focus on my auto loan. So I got it knocked down to about 15,000 when I started the debt-free journey. So I
Yeah.
don't ever account for that money because I'm like, I feel like I'm cheating. So that started with I had an auto loan, I had a personal loan, credit cards, and my student loan as well. So I had a good mix of everything in there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. How do you like set that up to know like, all right, so you're like, I don't want this. This is not what I thought it was going to be. Did you just like write all your debt down?
So when I got serious about it, yes.
Yeah.
I first started with a budget because I was very curious to know why I felt like I never had any money. I
Mhm.
knew where my bills were due. I knew how much my bills were. They were barely getting paid, but they were getting paid. But I'm like, what is happening with the rest of the money? So I started with the budgeting aspect of it and kind of got
Mhm.
into a little rhythm there. And then I decided that I needed to look at my debt. Like, what's going on? I didn't even know how much I owed on my auto loan. Like, it was years after I got the auto loan that I logged into the account just to look at stuff. And so
Yeah.
I went in Excel. I made this ugly spreadsheet because I didn't know how to work it. I just put down who I owed, exactly how much I owed, and the interest rate. And I started to track every single time I made payments. I would just plug it in a cell. And every single time I increased the debt, those were
Mhm.
the credit cards, but I just wanted to kind of document it to see what my behavior was, just to help me figure out a game plan.
Yes. For some people, I feel like people like out of sight, out of mind. I'm like, when it comes to your debt, it does not work like that. Like you have to know, and that's how you start planning, basically just writing it all out. And I'm like, you have to write it. You need to be able to see it to know what exactly you're going to tackle. And it's that accountability to say, like, okay, that was you. I got myself here. Like, how is now my time to like get myself out of that debt? So it wasn't even pretty. You're like, oh, yours was on an Excel sheet. Mine was literally on a piece of paper. Like I had it in a notebook. Like, oh gosh, this is what I. And when you start to add it up, like, how did I get here with all this?
You're gonna want to vomit right there. It's like my first thought was, I'm gonna die with this debt. I'm never gonna get it paid off. I don't have no money. How am I going to do this? I don't have no money. I barely have money to pay my bills. But I feel like you face it, you deal with the first reactions of it, like the first few emotions, and then after a while, it doesn't become so scary. And you're like, I think I can make a plan for this just to see kind of what happens.
Yeah, and I think some people get stuck at that because it really is an uncomfortable feeling to like,
Mhm.
yeah. When I wrote mine down, I was like, I wrote it down. I had joined the Instagram community, like the personal finance community. I wrote it down, and then like a month later, I had to get a new car. So I had to tell Instagram I had to increase my debt by 16,000. I was like, yo, I gotta tell the people that I got more debt now. That number is higher than what we started out with. I was like, how? How? Well, I
Yeah.
was living my best life, or it's like, what was? And it's always like you think, what the hell was I doing? Because I feel like I don't even remember where the money went. And I look back, I'm like, wait, so I had interest on McDonald's. I had interest on a flight. I had interest on weird things that I didn't need to if I would have just learned how to manage my money properly. It's just like the hard reality after you write it down is it's either going to build your momentum to want to do it, or it's probably going to scare you to say, like, I'm not ready
And that's fine. Yeah. But
yet.
it's like, at least you
Yeah.
know, don't run from it. Know what you're working with.
Yeah.
And then from there, you kind of ease into
Believe it
it.
or not, it took you years to accumulate the debt. It's going to take you some time to get out of it. So it's just understanding like those numbers and writing it down and being aware. So, what was the biggest mindset shift that you think you had to make while you were on your journey?
But honestly, I feel like the biggest mindset shift that I had to make, honestly, was me accepting that I was worthy of it.
Mhm.
Because I feel like for a lot of people, and not even just single parents, just kind of like women in general, single
Yeah.
women, we feel like we're at the bottom of the totem pole and everything, you know,
Yeah.
and we don't have the means to do things without, you know, someone else. And
Yeah.
so for me, because I started a debt-free journey before, and I quit because I didn't feel like I was capable of doing it. I did not have full faith in myself. So the biggest difference between that debt-free journey and then the one where I actually stayed consistent was me accepting that I could do it and me accepting that I was worthy. And it sounds crazy to be like, you know, well, accepting that you can do it. But a lot of us know our worth. It just scares us to have to align our vision and our goals with that worth. So we rather play it safe. Me, I took on the position of I'm going to do what I need to do, and I'm not going to stop. Like, I'm just going to keep going and see where it gets me, because I can't stay where I am right now. That's scary reality of changing my future and going after these goals. It's a lot more doable than me staying where I am right now.
I think you hit it for me. It's like accepting that like I deserve this. And I think that was hard for me as well to say like no, it's yours. Like you can go after whatever you want. And this is just going to be the beginning. Like I think people think like at the debt-free journey it ends, but I'm like, it's the beginning. Once you get out of it, so many opportunities can open for you. And it was just saying, okay, Selma, like you deserve to do it. Even if you have to do it on your own, because I've been single this entire journey doing it. So it's never easy. Like I don't have someone like, yeah, girl, you got this. Like I'm right here with you. Like I was my own, yeah, girl, you got this. Right here with me. So it's just like I always tell people like it's sometimes it's kind of nice to have someone to say like you can do it. But when you don't, you still have to be able to just do it yourself. But it's like it's
Yeah.
not easy.
It's scary because it's just you. It's
Just
just you.
you.
You don't have, you know, someone else helping you with this. It's all on you. Every decision is on you. And if you're a mother, you've got human beings in which those decisions will impact. So it makes it a lot more difficult because you feel like I don't want to make the wrong decision.
So how has the journey affected your children? Because I know you also talk about that like they did not ask to be on this.
Okay, so with my son, I actually, when I decided to pay off debt, that was September 2016. I'm like, I'm going to go for it. I got pregnant a few months later with him. So
Oh,
he was my first setback. Let's just say that, because I know a lot of people, and I'm sure you hear it too. People are always like, you know, every time I try, something comes up and then I get
yeah.
set back. And then, you know, it's gonna happen. So the
Yeah.
only advice I can have for you is just
Yeah.
keep going. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Um, so he's always been on the journey with me. He was born
Yeah.
into the different journey, and he don't care. He thinks he's Spider-Man right now. So it hasn't really impacted him at all. With my daughter, I call her kind of like my partner in crime, because it was me and her. She
Yeah.
didn't ask to be put on the journey, but she was a part of it. And I will say it was a lot easier with her because she was only like almost 4 at the time when I decided to go for it. So this was kind of all she knows as well. All she knew
Yeah.
was a super frugal life. But I will say now as she's getting older, you know, she's
Mhm.
having friends, she's picking up on a lot more things. It's getting more difficult as she gets older. So the older kids, it's a lot harder for them because they see what their peers have and they're
Yeah.
questioning your decisions because it's not the norm, right? But what's also beautiful is that she watches everything that I do. Even if I don't specifically tell her something, just
Yeah.
her watching me manage money or, making a video, she'll be like, oh, I need to make my budget so I can get my baby doll some diapers. Or, when we're looking at properties, I do make sure to expose her to everything because I know that she's not always going to do what she needs to do. She's not going to grow up and be some financial guru. She's going to be an emotional spender like all of us were. She's going to have to figure it out. But I still want her to have those tools in her toolbox so that, she has a solid foundation to stand on when she does go into adulthood.
You see it, like her financial decisions are just look a little bit different.
Yeah.
But for me, one thing I realized because I'm not a mom, but I'm an aunt. As an aunt, I had to like scale back on buying my nephews all of the things because that's what I would do. And my nephew said it to me the other day. He's like, you used to take me to Target all the time and get me whatever I wanted. And I'm like, yeah, that because I was not financially literate or responsible. I wasn't managing my money properly. And now my 5-year-old nephew is like, is this in the budget? Is this in the budget? And my brother-in-law the other day was like, my son is asking me about a budget. Like, what does that mean? Like, why is he asking me that? I'm like, because he's seen me talk to other people about their budget. And he's 5. They pick up.
So you don't have to do much. And then that's like, it also lets you know, like, if you're doing something that's, not financially responsible, they're going to pick up on that as well. That's going to play a huge role. Like we were saying in the beginning, like as single women, it's just our decision. We don't have a partner. It's just us. Everything that we do is all on us. And so you have to take that into consideration because if you're a single mom like me, whatever you're doing, it's going to play a role in how they grow up and they do certain things. So that should be the number one motivator to get you started and consistent. And that was for me.
That seems like such a hard role to have, but like not only to have that role as a mother who has to raise children and be financially responsible, but to have to do all that on your own. Like you said, there's no one to lean on. Like you bring home the money. So how has that kind of just like affected you emotionally? Like going through the process, having your children along the process, how has it affected you emotionally? How are you able to sustain and keep going?
Ooh, I will say it's always scary. It's always like, can I do this? Or what am I doing? Or I don't want to make the wrong decision. And those feelings and questions, they never go away. And I think people think they do. No, they're never going to go away. It's just how you handle them. So for me, at first, it was very crippling, especially in the beginning. I'm like, I would quit easily. I'm like, I can't do this, or I would kind of panic thinking of it's me, it's me, it's me. But now I just get into the habit of stepping over that fear and kind of walking with that fear, because that fear is always pointing to what you really want. If I'm freaking out about something, it's that I want a solid financial foundation for my kids to stand on. I want to be able to, properly support my children financially. And that's the reason why I'm feeling this way. And so me not doing it is just going to make those fears worse. And so me putting it that way, it makes it a lot easier to just do the thing, but do it scared,
Yeah, I know on my journey, and I feel like sometimes Instagram kind of makes things look like a highlight reel. And I tell people, like, I do not advocate that this journey is easy whatsoever. This was not easy for me. Like, I cried some days and I wanted to give up a lot, and I was completely fucking tired a lot of the time on this journey. But I will always say that after I have come out on the other side, it was worth it. Now you're able to like look at properties, you're able to go out into the world and like be your best self and know you can confidently do that. So for me emotionally, it was just like it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun.
No. Like I'm like, now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, I never want to do that again.
No,
I never journey ever.
And it's like that keeps you out of debt. And I'm just like, I was simple, like, yeah, it's great to see me making my debt payments, but you
Yeah,
don't know how I probably cried the fucking week before because I was so tired and so stressed out to make those payments. I would never change it, but I would never want to go through it again.
ever again,
It
ever
was
again. It's not going to be a pretty process. And I think sometimes we think that, it should. And I feel for these women who are on these financial journeys right now. And they have to deal with the soft girl era and the black luxury era. And it's kind of like, especially if it's geared towards material things, I
yeah.
feel for them right now because it's like, it's ain't nothing soft about a debt-free journey. Just straight shooting it. There's nothing soft about it. You have to tell yourself no. You have to sacrifice. You may have to make some big decisions, like
Yeah.
downgrading, and it feels like, you know um it can be very easy to try to justify why you should go back to how you always were, because you're seeing like, well, this is hard, this isn't a soft life, or I deserve these type of things. So I definitely feel for the women nowadays, and I can see why it's so difficult for them to stay consistent in this day
Yeah.
and age.
And I think that's why like your why has to be important. And I feel like the why is also sometimes so euphoric. Like I'm like, yeah, generational wealth sounds great, but right now I need something. I need my why to be something that I could hit that is tangible in the moment, because it's really easy to give up. Like it is really easy just to go back to your old habits, especially when you're like stressed the hell out, you're doing it on your own. All the things are like pointing to you. It's like you have to do it. This is you. And it's like, yeah, it's easy to make the excuse to say like, no, I don't see anybody else doing it. I don't need to do it. But I will always say it was worth it. But I was, Lord, when I tell you I was just like, when am I gonna be done?
Yes, it's like you feel like you're never going to get done, but it's one of those things that you just keep doing it, even though it's hard and difficult. And then when you
Yeah.
get to the end, you like a big sigh of relief, like,
Yeah.
oh, it was worth it. It was
And
worth it.
I thought it would be some type of, and I always tell people this. I'm like, I thought it would be some type of like secret confetti dropping down when I made my last payment, but it really wasn't. It was like anticlimactic. I was like, oh, okay,
Like,
I'm done.
this is it. Like, yeah, I took a
And I
nap.
don't
I'm like,
think we talk about that enough. And I'm just like, I tell people like, no, you're not gonna have that confetti cloud and those balloons. Like, it's not gonna look like what it looks like on Instagram. It's just gonna be like,
yeah,
oh,
like, what's next? You
what's
know,
next?
everyone asked me, how did you feel? I know you were, I didn't feel amazing. I didn't feel excited. I didn't feel emotional. I felt like it was a regular day. I made a regular payment, because you don't really realize the depth of what you've done until like maybe like a year or so after. You got to give yourself time to adjust to your new normal, especially if it was a long financial journey.
So, what are three pieces of advice you'd give to a single mother on a debt-free journey?
Oh, I would say number one, obviously, prepare yourself mentally before you actually, embark on the journey, because your mentality is number one. If you don't believe that you can do it, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do what you need to do to get to your goal. So work on, you know, recognizing why you're worthy, how you're able to do it, and then it becomes easier to stay consistent. Number two is prepare for the unexpected, because that
It
seems
will
to be
happen.
the number one thing that makes a lot of people quit. It's like, oh, I said I was going to pay off debt, but then my car broke down. Okay, well, maybe we should start, you know, figuring out what our liabilities are and how we can prepare for these certain things. If we have an old car, maybe we need to start with a car sinking fund before we actually go full throttle on paying off a specific debt. That way, you kind of have a safety net. If something happens, you can just dip into that, and it's not going to completely derail the progress that you've made towards your main goal. And then, third thing I would say is to get organized. That is one thing that I think that I know actually would have made a huge difference in my financial journey if I was completely organized at first. Like, I had my list of my debts, I knew exactly what it was that I was going to do, having one main goal, not three, one. I had a list of my expenses, the due dates, the amounts. I kept track of my spending just because when you're in the beginning of it, you don't quite know yourself yet. You're
Very
learning yourself. You are going to evolve over the journey, but you really need to know where you are during that time. What is your cycle? I've had someone recently say, when something unexpected pops up, tends to self-soothe by, going out and purchasing things, and then it makes it harder for her to obviously
yeah.
pay off. So learning yourself in those type of cycles, and that way you know what barriers to set up to keep yourself from doing these specific things, because it's going to be your old you and your new you that's going to be duking it out, and you have to figure out a way to keep your old you at bay.
I tell people that all the time, and I don't think they think it's like a real thing, but I'm just like, you have to be honest with yourself. You have
Mm.
to know yourself on this journey. If you know that you can't use credit cards responsibly, don't use them. Like, it's really that simple. The points, none of the rewards are worth it if you are going to carry a balance on it every single month. So don't use the card. I always tell people, like, for my fun money, I take cash or I
Yeah.
put it on a separate debit card because I know myself. When I have a drink or seven, I'm not doing seven, but I have like a drink or three, I get very happy and I want to spend more money. So I combat that by literally having a certain amount of money on me. I can't buy the bar drinks if I only have $60 in my budget and I only have $60 in cash.
Yet you got to know yourself. Leave space to learn yourself. If something goes wrong, because it will, okay, what happened and what did you learn about yourself and what you need to do next time? Like, that is how people are able to do it. And also when you said that, that brought up something like, we have the personal finance community has grown tremendously. There are so many different perspectives and tips and ideas out there, and I feel like when you know yourself, it's easy to kind of navigate through the community and kind of take what you need and leave what you don't. I think in the beginning it's really easy to see someone maybe like you that's successful, and if you're using a credit card and this person doesn't know that they're an impulse spender and they're going to make it rain if they use a credit card, they may say, well, she said, use credit cards for cashback rewards. So I did, but it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Learn yourself and know that everything online that you see, you have the ability to customize it according to what you need and just keep it moving.
That when okay, yes, you said it. The personal finance space has grown tremendously. And when I first started out, I realized I was following all of the wrong people. And I realized that very early on because the motivation started to turn into me beating myself up because I could not keep up with the same payments they were doing. So I would make the $1,000 payments and then use the credit card because I really couldn't afford to do it.
Yeah, I need my money
back. Yeah. So it's just like you said, navigating your way through it and finding your voice. Like, okay, this person is where I want to be in my next step. I always tell people, like when I first started, I was making $37,000.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped following people who were making above $150,000 because one, I wasn't there. Two, I could not relate to what the hell they were doing. So I was following people making like $80,000. And now that I'm higher, I'm following people who are making a little bit more money than you. But sometimes when you go too high, it stops becoming motivation for you. And when you realize, oh, I'm watching this person's feed and I no longer feel motivated. I actually feel like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Then it's like, that's when it's time to change.
Absolutely. Like, you got to know what season you're in.
Yeah.
In that season. And then when things become kind of like stagnant and dull, you know that it's time to grow and level up. And it's all like, it's just normal ebbs and flows.
So I'm gonna I'm gonna ask this next question because who child dating ghetto
Okay.
right now for me. So let me be serious. How has dating been after like being more financially responsible, more financially aware, out of debt? How has the dating process been?
It's been sad. Uh, sad. I mean, I think that it would be extremely ghetto before, but it's like a desert now because when you are financially elevating, it just automatically takes out a lot of people from your league. And so now you want to find someone, maybe that shares the same beliefs as you, religion, someone that's XYZ. And now you got to find somebody that's financially literate and responsible too, so that they don't come in and destroy your progress. Like that adds another check mark. And a lot of people aren't going to fit that. I find that I don't even waste my time anymore because my
Yeah.
walk is different. I've proven to myself I'm worthy. If you're on a financial journey, you're working to improve your finances, your self-worth is up here because you're doing what
Mhm.
you do to better your life, to better yourself. And so you're not going to accept the same BS that you were before, maybe before you started your journey. Like you're able to better, support yourself. I can support
Mhm.
myself. I don't need you for money. And I'm not dating for money. And because of that, I'm not dealing with a lot of these shenanigans. So for me, I don't really have an update on dating besides like it's non-existent and it's kind of sad. But I'm willing to wait it out. And I know that what I'm asking for is not too much because if I can do it on my little income as a single parent, you should be able to do it as well.
That's how I feel. I'm just like it's ghetto out here. And I don't know where the plenty of fish are in the sea because I'm not seeing them. I nothing has
They
on my
migrated somewhere because the sea is empty.
it's empty. And I'm just like, it's really so hard to be financially like responsible and financially aware and date someone doesn't have that. And
Mhm.
even like I personally told my story on Instagram, like I dated someone who did not want to become financially literate. And it was always a battle. And it was one that I was like, I really like you. Like I love you actually. But our mindsets are never going to match. Like I tried and I'm just like, now I'm like, I know that's not what I want. And as I continue to evolve, I always tell people like one thing, and it's like a negative also because I'm like hyper independent, and I
Mhm.
never feel like I never feel like being hyper independent is a good thing. It is a trauma response.
It is.
But I also understand like, okay, these are the things that I want because I'm financially aware, financially literate, and I'm motivated enough to go out and get things. I need someone who is also able to do the same thing, but know that I just don't necessarily need you for your money. Like
Yeah.
it's I need more than that, but it's hard. It's hard. Where are the men? What the
Yeah.
hell?
And what I've noticed that can be off-putting to them. Either you're going to attract
Yeah.
the ones, or in my experience, you're going to attract
Yeah.
those who know what you're doing financially and
Yeah.
they want some of that. They want you to help support them, or you're going to have to deal with those who find, like you were saying, your hyper independence, especially financially, off-putting because we still live in a
Yeah.
society where men feel like they should be the heads, they should be the main providers, they want to be the main provider. And if you're making six figures, you out here doing it, you paid off debt, you're living your life, that's off-putting to them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it makes it very difficult.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm gonna wait this out, but Lord, how long are you gonna make me
How
wait?
long? Like how it's been a few
Give
years.
me some time, please.
You're gonna be in the way.
So,
You're in the way.
how has your relationship been between you and your family since becoming debt free? Because again, I stalk your Instagram, and I know that you just threw like your brother a party.
Yes. So I will say in the beginning, they made fun of me. I'm not gonna
Did
lie.
they? Yeah.
They were like, well, before I even, if they were planning something, they were like, oh, Diana, she's not gonna go. It's not in her budget. Or, you got
Yeah.
to live your life. You can't live like this. Da, 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 da. You know, whenever you change, something changes
Mhm.
with you. They want the
Mhm.
old you back, or they're just going to poke fun at you a little bit. That's
Mhm.
how my family works. But now what's so funny, now that they've seen what I've accomplished, they're like, oh, I'm going to get with you later on this week. I need you to
Yeah.
help, you know, look over something. Like, especially with my brother, I'm like, I need you to help me look over this and look over that. Or they will ask for my advice. And whenever I threw my brother a surprise party, kind of what we were saying, there's no confetti when you make your
Yeah.
last payment. Since I've been debt free for 2 years, I'm really reaping the benefits now. And I'm able to do so much now for my family because of the
Yeah.
decisions that I made. Like throwing him a surprise party, I spent close to $1,000 on that. Just a few months prior, we did a family get together.
Yeah, we're like a get together. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and that was a pretty penny too, you know, but I know that they know now what I have done, and they're making better financial decisions, and they're coming to me for help, and to me, like that's what it's all about. Like I made the right decision.
I love that. And I don't think, like you said before, sometimes we don't, it's not the confetti. You realize it like a couple of months or a year after. Like right now, I'm just like, wow, I don't actually really have to wait for my check because I'm not waiting to then pay someone else anymore.
Well, I'm
Oh,
so
like, I got
okay.
money left over.
Yes, like I'll check my account. I got paid this week.
Yes. And I say that like even when like we're six figures, whatever you're making, when you do not have to worry about paying someone else, you just see the difference in yourself, in your money, in your bank account, the way you move. I'm like, I don't ever want to go back to that situation, but it is nice to just say, like, oh, I got money. And I'm not making 200, $300,000, but it's like, I got money.
Yeah, and I say like what you just said, you don't have to make six figures. If you are debt free or close to it, you're not having to pay out so many people, girl, you can make it work with 60,000 a year. You
Yes.
can making 60,000 a year than someone making 150,000 a year because you're not paying out for things that you purchase. Like you're not paying for certain financial decisions. You can make it work.
Yes, and another a study showed that like people who are making, I think it was like $150,000 are living paycheck to paycheck, and I'm
Okay.
like, because you make more money doesn't mean you're not gonna not inflate your lifestyle, or doesn't mean you're not gonna live paycheck to paycheck. I don't want people to think like, oh, you're only people who are making like $30,000, $40,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. No,
Yeah.
people who are making $150, it all depends on how you view your money, use your money, and what your lifestyle is. I like four times my salary, but my lifestyle honestly has not changed much. I am still like, oh wait, no, let's chicken. It's $10. Let's get the $9.50 one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but I realize how easy it is that your lifestyle can be inflated when you're not
Mhm.
financially literate. So going through the debt-free journey and coming out on the other side and saying, I never want to go back there has made me say I need to keep my expenses low. And like I said, the debt-free journey is like really like the bottom, right? It's like right at the surface level. And then from there, I'm like, okay, I don't want the Chanel bag. I don't want the Louis Vuitton. I actually want another property. I actually want some land. The thinking becomes different. And you talk about
Mhm.
mindset a lot. And I'm like, your mindset changes completely.
100%. You're not the same person coming out of it. You're a completely different woman. And because you evolved into a new woman, your finances improved as well. Like as you improve yourself, your money's going to improve. Because a
Yeah.
woman
And
who like with is confident and
mhm,
like has high self-worth, do you think she's going to blow
yeah.
her last on a Louis Vuitton? No. She's going to figure out how to make that money work for her.
Exactly, exactly. It's just nice to be able to say, like, yeah, the mindset is the hardest thing to change. And I always tell people the numbers are easy. Like the
Mhm.
numbers are easy. They're there in your face. but the mindset is what takes time, but it never leaves you once you have it. It don't go nowhere. You'd be like, oh no. And other areas in my life have improved because I was on this debt-free journey.
Yes.
It's nice
Yes.
for you.
It's nice. It's real peaceful.
It's real peaceful. Listen, I love it. I'm just like, I can't go back to that. What has been one adult trauma that you have experienced with money? So for me
One.
personally, I usually tell people, I just want to like give you an example. I usually tell people at the age of 22, I had broke up with my boyfriend. We were living together. I broke up with him and I had to move back in with I had to move back in with my sister.
Mhm.
And it was my trauma because it showed me at that moment, Selma, you can't sustain yourself. Like right in this moment, if your sister did not live in New York, you would be on your ass and you could not sustain yourself. And from that moment on, I was like, if it's one thing I'm going to have to learn how to do is have my money. But breaking up with someone and saying, damn, I have to go live back with my sister in one of her bedrooms and not be able to just go get my own apartment was a trauma that has stuck with me. And now I kind of like just always have my own money for everything.
Yeah. I would say one major trauma in adulthood, kind of like piggybacking off of you. My kids, well, my ex, I broke up with him like when I was 27. So he
Mhm.
was with me for the majority of the debt-free journey.
Yeah.
But I don't really, for respect on all sides, I don't really share the story much, the details of it. But I will say that was, with him, it was a trauma bond, and it really impacted my ability to succeed financially. Nothing was working. I was stagnant. Actually, I was making it was really hard for me to improve financially, because I was the breadwinner, and
Yeah.
if I had extra money, it would be me giving it to him,
Mhm.
out of trauma, people pleasing, because I've grown up a people pleaser because I didn't have self confidence. So when I actually left, my finances improved so much, and that really showed me that you have to heal those inner wounds, those childhood wounds, because it can play out in who you attach yourself to, and who you attach yourself to, that person's always going to impact your finances, whether it's positive or negative. I did not thrive until I left that relationship. And then I realized, like, this is why I was doing those certain things. And I began to heal that inner part of me. And everything started aligning. Everything that was stagnant started to grow. And going back to like dating, now I know,
Yeah.
why it's so important to have someone who aligns with your financial goals and your mindset, because it will make or break you.
Yeah. And I don't think we sometimes realize that in the moment, like how stagnant things are becoming, or sometimes we don't want to see it because honestly, sometimes in relationships, I knew, like, I was well aware that this shit was not going to work. And I would stay there because I am also a people pleaser. So
Mhm.
I innately want to make people happy, even sometimes at that time where it was a detriment to even my own happiness. I was like, you know better. Why aren't you actually doing better?
That's that's it. That's it. Like, people who are spending over, they know exactly what they're doing to
No.
keep themselves in this spot. They know better, but they don't do better. So
Better.
what's the solution?
True. What's the solution? I literally had to like, and I think it was a conversation with myself to say like, I deserve it. But like
Mhm.
not just saying it, but I really had to believe like I deserve it. Like it wasn't enough to just think it or say it because it's like affirmations. If you just say it and then nothing happens, well, it's pointless. It's just words. But like I had to find and believe like you were worth it. And so now I can just be like, oh, this doesn't align. I gotta go. Have
Quickly.
fun. Please see you later. So I love that. And I know it wasn't easy to share for you, but I want to thank you for sharing that because I think for some people they'll have to realize like, oh, this is exactly what I'm in. And I probably won't experience my own growth until I actually leave it.
Mhm. You are the problem sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that kind of accountability. We're
It
not
hurts.
ready for it. It hurts. We are not ready for it. That kind of ability is gonna hit you in a chest. Like it hurts, but I think it's the best thing you can do for yourself. It's like face that hurt and then let it move you to be something
Mm.
else. But I want to know personally, what's the goal for Money Boss Mama?
So I will say number one, in anything I do, the goal is to just always simply be of service to me.
Mhm.
That is the highest honor in my life. Money Boss Mama will have huge changes being made in
Ooh.
2023. Definitely huge shift.
Ooh.
Things are changing, but I will say, even in the midst of change, I'm always going to be here to like educate and uplift women because I become representation for them. And I don't take that lightly. So I will continue to be of service. It's more so just going to be just Diana probably from now on. Um, but just really sharing my story, and sharing how a financial journey can improve every area of your life.
I love it. I love how you just said it's just gonna be Diana. Like I think sometimes like you get like you have like Money Boss Mama and you have Diana and then you have Selma and then you have Bitch I'm Budgeting and it's like they're kind of different people.
Yeah, like I be stalking you, luxury life. Okay.
What a budget. I'm trying to like, and that's my thing now because, like you said, like I have to realize, like on my debt free journey, I did not give myself grace enough to say, like,
Mhm.
okay, here's $10 to $15 to just have fun with and like make yourself feel good. So it's just nice to be able to tell other people while they're on their journey, like, this is what you can do with $20 when you have it. Like, you can actually make things happen with $20. You just have to actually want to make it happen with the money that you have. I want to thank you so much for your time, for bringing your wisdom, your knowledge, your vulnerability. It was absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I truly appreciate you, girl.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.